Chuck Smith was one of my personal mentors. Knowing the Word, it's so important.
Welcome to David Sneed Ukraine Missions, a Calvary Chapel podcast based out of Lviv, Ukraine. Hi everyone, my name is David Sneed. I'm a missionary in Lviv, Ukraine, and today we are talking with Dr. Dennis Janisse. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing, David? Miss you
great
guys.
To hear. Yeah, we miss you guys too. Maybe someday you guys will be coming over this way sometime soon. I know you guys don't have as much family around here as you did, but do you think you'll be coming around?
As an adjunct professor at Lviv Theological Seminary, they've given me an open door to come back and teach anytime I want. Awesome. So anytime I'm in Ukraine, I can, head over there, and all I have to do is let them know when I'm coming. They'll set me up some classes. And also the Lviv Theological Seminary that I, was the director of in Mukachevo, which is still going on, by the way. They're in their second run, and they have about 20 students now in the BA program. And so
that's awesome.
I can come over and teach there too.
Well, Dr. Janisse has been a missionary in many different parts of the world. He's been a huge blessing to me. I think you've been in Korea, South Sudan, Ukraine, various parts of the United States. Have you traveled to India or anywhere else? Yeah. So
India.
Praise the Lord. So one of the things that I want to talk to you about, I read your thesis a couple weeks ago, and that and a book by Dr. K.P. Yohannan, the Revolution in World Missions. Those are both kind of inspiring me right now to think more about this idea of training up Indigenous missionaries. So I want to, tee up the ball for you and ask, why do we need to train up local folks here or wherever a missionary would be? Why not just have Americans come over all the time?
Well, the big thing to me, and as I say, I know KP. He was an inspiration to me to get my higher education and so forth. And, I read all his books and talked to him personally. And the thing that he stresses is that we don't need American missionaries planting churches. The expense that it takes to an American missionary to live overseas and all the hassle that they have and trying to, enculturate, get into the culture, eat the food, know the people, learn the language. He says, if we train the indigenous people, they understand those things, they eat the food, they know how to survive, they speak the language perfectly, can
Obviously.
get the ideas across, without, and all we need to do is bring ourselves and teach them, not bring our Western culture, but bring the knowledge that the Lord has given us, that generic Christian knowledge that will empower them to go out and do the ministry. And that I've always based my missionary work on. That's why I didn't become a church planting missionary. I became an academic missionary so that I could help raise up those indigenous pastors and empower them to go out and do the work of the ministry.
But you have planted a couple of churches in your life, or at least one church before, right?
I've planted 2 churches in the U.S.
Yes.
So, I eat the food, I speak the language, I understand the culture.
Yeah.
So, I'm not speaking about planting churches in your native country.
Yeah.
It's the idea of helping those in other countries that don't have the availability of the seminaries and things like that you can go to and do trainings. And that's what my training seminars were set up for.
That makes sense. A quick reminder for anybody that's watching, if you appreciate what we're doing and you want to see more interviews like this, please do like and share and subscribe. It's all down there below the video. Could you share a little bit more about your experiences in South Sudan with us? Like, what went on there while you were down there?
Well, in Sudan, that wasn't my first missionary experience.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that before I get to Sudan, my first
Mm-hmm.
missionary experience was in South Korea back in the 70s when I was in the military.
Oh, that sounds like an
I
intense
was
time.
I was stationed in South Korea in 72, 73 at that time, and I was assigned to a base that didn't have any airplanes, and I was an airplane mechanic. So what I did, I worked what we call transit alert, where we would refuel anything that came to the base and deal with it there. And I was on 24 hours on and 48 hours off.
Okay.
So I had a lot of free time. And I got involved with the local missionaries in Gwangju, Korea,
Mm-hmm.
who eventually helped me bring my wife over, Georgia. And so we were there for, like I was there for a year working with Betts Huntley, kind of every other day, and going out on the mission field with them, going out into the country and so forth. So I had missionary experience way back before I even became a pastor. And then when I got out of the Air Force, I was back in Costa Mesa. That's where I got saved.
Mm-hmm.
And so after pastoring for 20 years or so, and I met Wes Bentley, who has far-reaching ministries. And he asked me if I would like to go to Sudan and teach.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that would be far out. But first of all, I didn't just jump right into full-time mission work. I went and John Bonner invited me to go to Peru to teach a seminars on the cults. And
I've heard of him.
so we went there. Yeah. And then after that, we went ahead and went to, I guess, Sudan or Nicaragua. Then we went to Sudan. Georgia and I went to Sudan at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole idea behind the Sudanese missionary there was that you train Sudanese soldiers to be pastors, because they were having the Civil War, and when George and I first went in there, I had to be smuggled in. We were smuggled in to South Sudan, and it was really exciting. The Civil War was going on, and the atrocities were so extensive on both sides, because one was Muslim and one was supposedly Christian, but there were no Christian leadership in the Sudanese military, and that's what Wes Bentley set it up to train pastors. And he asked me if I would be interested in coming out and doing some training, since I had extensive military background, knew how to handle myself, knew how to handle weapons if I needed them. I had them available to me, and not that I sought to use them, but
Of course.
the compound could have been overrun. It was bombed a few times and so forth. It was a very dangerous area.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's the same area. That's the same country where the movie, what's that called, like Machine Gun Preacher or something like that.
Yeah. Wes knows him. There wasn't too far away from where we were, but
Mm-hmm.
Wes has got a whole different approach to ministry than that. And anyways, I ended up going back to Sudan a couple more times, and total of all, I guess I spent about 5 or 6 months there over the period of 3 years. And I was going to go full time with them in Sudan to help run the training, but I got diabetes, type 2, and that restricted my travel and my diet, and so that was kind of out at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you, those guys that came for the pastoral training, this chaplaincy training, they would sit there 8 hours with a few breaks, and then they want more, and they were like dry sponges that absorbed, and these guys were laying their life on the line. They would go into the front line in the midst of battle and pray for people, some of them getting killed themselves.
Wow.
It was the real deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there ever anything like how did they select candidates for the chaplaincy program from the Army? Like, how did
just
they?
that way.
Yeah, just like, you're going.
A lot of them got saved in the chaplaincy program. It's one of the first things that we would do. You know, the Wes was friends with the, you know, commander-in-chief of the military.
Mm-hmm.
Personal friends. He led them to the Lord. And and he says, we need this training. We need to set up a chaplaincy program. He says, well, you send me the people, I'll train them. And, you know, a lot of them are, you know, just coming straight, some of them from, you know, the mountains, the Numinese mountains that were, you know, were Muslim at one time. And they, you know, and so a lot of them got saved. And as the program matured, we started training local pastors that had some background too. They joined up, but they had to spend 2 years as a chaplain to get the training before they were let loose. So, yeah, they were assigned.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like I said, I already mentioned Dr. Johannan, right?
Yeah, we could talk about that again.
Cool. Just thinking through, like, he's got some really radical language in his book. Like, I think I remember something like him saying, "The day of the Western missionary is over," or something like that. Which, like, you know, that's a headliner phrase, you know. There are some people that watch my podcast or pray with us on the Calvary Chapel prayer page that are talking with me in the comments about becoming missionaries eventually. And you know, for, you know, like, thinking back on your experience in South Sudan and in Ukraine and these other places, would you agree? What would you say to these people that maybe don't have, like, I don't think any of them have that academic background, you know? What would be your message to those folks?
I have to be careful there because I don't want to step on any toes or even destroy my future ministry.
Oh, yeah. And you don't want to claim to be the Holy Spirit for anybody, I'm sure.
No. But I have found from all my travels, all my missionary work, 7 years in Ukraine, I don't think that, how can I put this? Missionary work is important. You know, to help establish churches. But what I see, I see Western ideas, Western Christianity trying to be planted in Ukraine that is outside their cultural interests and the way they operate in their church. To me, I saw that the church, Baptist church, Pentecostal church, was very healthy in and of itself. The people maybe are holiness, but that's good. That keeps them pure. We call it legalism, but to them, that's their culture, that's their life. And why should we try to change something that is keeping a people pure? You need more liberty, man. You know, and I see this coming in, and I see a lot of the young missionaries that are graduating from the Bible colleges coming in with their, you know, their tattoos and all this good stuff, you know, and they're trying to give a Western Christianity to these people that come from, you know, basically a socialist communist background that's only been 25 years or so in the making. And there were sponges, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, I think the missionaries were necessary.
Yeah.
But when I first
Guy did
started
an
teaching,
amazing work in the 90s with Calvary
right,
Chapel and everything.
right.
Yeah.
When I first started teaching in Lviv Theological Seminary, I was one of 3 doctors that were teaching there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was teaching in the underdivision, lower graduate work, and I was teaching on the graduate level.
Mm-hmm.
And now they have, a lot of them have gone on to get their PhD.
Mm-hmm.
And the church is teaching, or the seminary is teaching on a level that they don't need a lot of Americans coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And, but as I say, I an academic, I don't want to teach Calvary Chapel,
Yeah.
Distinctives. I want to teach, the basics of theology, apologetics, and, all the subjects we take in seminary, but teach them from a Calvary Chapel perspective,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of knowing the Word.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important to, a lot of people take these subjects, but they don't know the Word.
Mm-hmm. Now let's dig into a little bit more of what you mean by what you said of not teaching the Calvary Chapel distinctives. I don't want to get you into trouble, but the idea of like, this is something that I'm thinking through because I work with the Baptist church here. I serve in an Indigenous Baptist church. I'm not going to a Calvary Chapel right now, so I can't demand or even sometimes request that some of the Calvary Chapel distinctives will be like shown or used in my church, right? So why teach from a Calvary perspective rather than teaching the actual distinctives? Where's the line drawn? Does that make sense?
A Calvary perspective, to me, the first and foremost is teaching the Word of God.
Amen.
The other stuff is, if you read the Calvary distinctives, it's a lot of peripheral issues.
Mm-hmm.
Pastor Moses type of guy, and no children in the service, and there's just a lot. It's talking about the expressway.
I would even say there's a lot of cultural things in there.
Huh?
I would even say there's a lot of cultural specific things in there.
It's Western Calvary Chapel stuff.
Yeah.
That works in big Calvary Chapel churches, but it has no relationship to church planting or a small church. You can't run a small Calvary Chapel or a church plant like a Calvary Chapel that's got 3,000, 4,000 people. Mm-hmm. I learned that the hard way in the churches that I planted, because I started out, some mother would come with their little baby, and I said, well, you have to put the baby in the nursery, and they wouldn't come back.
Yeah.
So I think the Calvary distinctives get a little bit legalistic.
The way we apply them.
I haven't read them in a long time, but there are some principles that I think are very dangerous if you have not been mentored personally by somebody that understands them specifically. I've seen so many pastors start Calvary Chapels that they think that they are Moses, and they don't take any advice. They don't listen, and a lot of them are novice.
Mm-hmm.
They've been
Isn't that the danger
out,
of?
they've
I think.
Gone out.
I wonder if that's the danger of almost any movement when you have like the beginning where you have kind of the spirit of the movement, and then it gets codified, but there's still the spirit of it, and then you keep going, and then some people, like, they'll take the codification of the movement and turn it into legalism, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
I'm
going
only
without the
speaking,
spirit of the law.
From my perspective. I can't speak for 1,500 Calvary Chapel churches. Okay.
Yeah.
And
but at the same time, Dennis, you've been around.
I've been around since the early 70s. I got saved in the tent days, and Chuck Smith was one of my personal mentors. Not just sitting under his Go Through the Word Bible study, but I went through pastoral training with him. I wasn't on staff or anything, but when I got sent out to Florida to start our first fellowship, I was the only guy in Florida at that time. Florida's a mecca for Calvary Chapels now, but I was the circuit pastor in the state of Florida in the the late 70s. I would travel around Florida. I was the contact for the Word for Today ministry. People call in, is there anybody here that can, start a church? And I'd go visit these people all through the state of Florida and help them set up tape libraries and things like that. Wow. And, so that's, where was I? I was talking about, Chuck was one of my mentors. And,
yeah.
And I've had a lot of interesting mentors. It wasn't just Calvary Chapel. When I was in Korea, I was with the Presbyterian missionaries, Southern Presbyterian missionaries. So I had a whole different perspective on mission work from a completely organized, structured missionary organization. I mean, these people went through 2 years of language training. They were filtered. It's not, hey, I just want to go on the mission field. They had to be psychologically profiled, filtered, language trained, have the appropriate education and degrees to go out and do those things. And so you're getting back to your thing. We have a lot of people that want to come out on the mission field from Bible college or from whatever. I think there's a very, very big weakness in preparation for the mission field.
I agree with you. But keep going.
And I think that there's a lot of people that think that that'll answer all their questions and problems. Hey, I don't get along in the United States. I'm kind of out of place. I'll go overseas where they don't recognize, they'll just accept me for my American culture because that's where I'm not accepted in the States, but they don't know anything about that stuff now. And so I have found a lot of people in the mission field hiding from the reality of, who they are. And they can't get along somewhere else, so they bring their problems to the mission field.
And that makes perfect sense.
And I've run into so much of that in the last 15 years or so of my mission work. And my philosophy was, I'll work with you, but I won't work for you. I'll come and do things and do this. I've trained, I've set up, I have the background, the education, the know-how, and I'd love to just work with you and help raise up people in your church that you can work with and make a Timothy. And I just never got a positive response from that.
That idea of running away from your problems by running to the mission field, that was actually something that people asked me if I was doing when I came over to Ukraine the first time. And I prayed a lot about it. My family was doing very poorly. Like my parents were in the aftermath of a divorce. My brother was not doing well, and that kind of thing. But I didn't feel like I was running. And so, I don't know, for me personally, I if there is somebody that's watching right now and that's thinking about that and that's, praying through and then can honestly say in their heart, I don't think I am, keep seeking the Lord. I think he'll lead you. But I mean, that's my experience. Like even though my parents were splitting up, even though, I had a lot of things that I felt like I needed to work through, I don't believe that was my motivation for coming over here. It caused some difficulties once I got here. For sure.
Knowing you personally, David, I concur with that 100%.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that.
You're pretty solid, and what I like about what you're doing is you're not working within, quote, the Calvary system. You are working with Indigenous church. You are part of that. You are, and I think that's what needs to, if you come to be a missionary, like Joel. Where did Joel go when he first got here? He went to a Ukrainian church.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like,
he wasn't there to bring his culture. He wanted to be part of their culture, and he stayed there. And
that's a wonderful church. It's almost a Calvary Chapel.
Years,
So, yeah.
what's a Calvary Chapel anymore? Calvary Chapel used to be distinct back in the 70s when we were first going out, first generation stuff.
Well, of course it would be, because everybody was barefoot. Like, what other church did
Right.
that? So.
Well, no, it was something new of going through the Word.
Yes,
And it was new, and it caught on, and everybody wants to go through the Word now. So Calvary's not that distinctive as far as teaching through the Word, and so I just think that teaching the Word is so important. You got a lot of people coming from the Bible colleges, and they've gone through Chuck,
Yeah.
But how did they go through listening to Chuck tracks, as fast as I can? They never really caught what he was trying to say. Not all of them, but a lot of them,
I don't think I did. I'll tell you straight right now. Like, I listened to the Chuck tracks, and I used it as a biblical encyclopedia, like an audio biblical encyclopedia. I wasn't thinking about, okay, he's speaking to a particular cultural movement at that particular time where these people are ready to listen to him, and they're hungry for it, and he can, I took that as, and now I know that's not true, but I took that as like, okay, this is how you teach the Bible in a Calvary Chapel. Your sermons are at least an hour long. You do, I think you called it a running homily in the Homilytics class, where you just read a little bit, comment, read a little bit,
mini sermons.
Comment. Yeah, and it's like 35
3-minute sermons.
Yeah, 35 3-minute sermons, So
can we talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, if you want. Yeah, I love preaching. I love preaching.
A lot of people that go out in the Calvary Chapel movement, they've listened to Chuck going through the Bible,
which is wonderful stuff, which is great.
That was his Wednesday night study.
Yeah.
Okay. But there was more to what he taught.
Was it Sunday night or Wednesday night? Or not the...
Well, it was Wednesday and Thursday. He switched it from Thursday to Wednesday. And, the Wednesday night, and then you had a Sunday night Bible study. Okay. So what he would do, when he would go through the Word, it would be Sunday night. And that would be for the core group. It wasn't, for visitors primarily, or, people came in, but it was taking your body through the scriptures verse by verse. And it wasn't necessarily verse by verse as much as it was telling what the chapters were, telling some stories. There was a different way of doing it.
And it was almost like this huge home group, right? Like almost that kind of atmosphere.
Sunday morning was for the visitor. Sunday morning was for the people that only come to church on Sunday morning. That's the only time they get. And he didn't go through the Bible on Sunday morning. He gave a 35 or 40-minute topical sermon based on where he was teaching on Sunday night. He would take a principle from that particular 4 chapters or 3 chapters or 2 chapters and expand that, but it would be on one thing.
Can you explain that a little bit more technically as what you mean by topical sermon? Because we might have, since we've talked in the past, my terminology has changed a little bit.
Topical textual sermon.
Okay. Yeah.
More or less a textual sermon, but based on any topic, okay?
That makes sense,
Like look for that topic within that text. And then pull it out and then preach on that particular topic. It could be theological. It could be, the gifts of the Spirit. It could, he would find something to minister that one thing. And, a lot of people never in ministry has listened to Chuck's sermons. There's a double set DVD. I think it's got all his sermons that he ever preached. I think there's something like 6,000 of them or something. But anyways, or 600 of them.
Yeah.
You can listen to how he did his homiletics. We were in pastoral training, and he came in. He says, "This is how we do it." And most of the successful large Calvary Chapel pastors, at least the first generation pastors that I know, do it this way. They do a Sunday morning sermon based on the text they're teaching Sunday night, and on the midweek they look at one book and take it, a couple verses at a time and just expand on that.
Mm-hmm.
And that way you get the topical, the textual, and the expositional.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's missing is that on Sunday mornings, in many of the Calvary chapels that I've been to in Ukraine, as well as in different places throughout the world, they're trying to teach through the Bible on Sunday morning. Well, that is only if you have your basic, you do that for your core, and you should do that midweek or something. But on Sunday morning, that's when you're ministering to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going through the word systematically, people are coming into the middle of a conversation.
Yeah.
And where am I? How am I? That's why I believe.
Can you
that
really
Sunday
misunderstand?
Huh?
You can really misunderstand if you compare it to a conversation where you miss the first half of a conversation.
Exactly. It's like reading, the epistles. You're coming into the middle of a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, I always look, and I taught homiletics, and I go, the one thing. What do you want those people to learn, to take away from they don't need 10, 15-point message. Okay, the first point that I'm going to make has 14 subpoints, sorry, there's a lot of people really push the inductive Bible study method,
Yeah, but you can use the inductive Bible study tools to do this. You can.
Yeah, but you don't have to give out every single point that you find.
Yeah.
You look for the one or two important things, everybody's got to find a system that works for them.
Mm-hmm.
But they always got to keep in mind that you're communicating to people that don't have a deep theological background.
Yes. Yes.
And a lot of times we can overdo it.
Yeah.
And trying to be really technical, like playing guitar and trying to lead worship at the same time.
Yeah.
You get so much into the technicality that you're not worshiping yourself. It's very dangerous.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's that's something that my seminary professors get on me about. I know that I'm a pretty academic person, and my seminary professors have told me, okay, what's the main idea, David? And how do you say that in plain language? Right. Okay. And I taught on, I did an exegetical, like a textual sermon on John 1 through 18.
Yeah.
Way too many verses for one thing. But yeah, they said
too.
they said that was a very good lecture.
Yeah.
So getting there.
Yeah, to me, it's the simplicity. The simplicity. I mean, you don't see Jesus giving, exegetal studies to the 12.
Yeah.
He's pointing to the birds, the boats, the fish, and sometimes we take ourselves a little bit too seriously and want to, pontificate upon our education, and we want people to, hey, I got a PhD, so I'm going to talk like one of those guys. But hey, Donald Gray Barnhouse used to say that if you're going to be a communicator, you got to be able to take the hay out of the barn and feed it to the cows.
Yeah.
You just don't take the bale and throw it down. You got to set it up for them,
Mm-hmm.
And he said something like that.
Yeah.
But, communication, the simplicity, and that's what I loved about Chuck. It was the simplicity. Do you know how deep he really is? You have to be deep in order to simplify.
Yes, amen.
The people that don't simplify aren't deep.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be able to completely understand your subject in order to communicate it simply.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
I mean, it's like relearning a lot of things from all the textbooks and so forth. But my favorite thing is just, communicating a simple gospel message to encourage the people, to let them know that they're loved, and starting where they are. That's the nature of an inductive sermon to me, is to start with a situation where the people are, then bring them to a deductive point.
Mm-hmm.
And that one thing that you want to get across to them.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's lost in going through the Bible, verse by verse on a Sunday morning. What you're getting is a running commentary of 150 different little sermonettes that really nobody's going to take away, that day. And I think that's the thing that's lacking in the training of in Bible college in Calvary Chapel. I've run across it. They don't do homiletics. They don't do the hermeneutics, because let's face it, most of the people teaching in the Bible colleges are graduates from the Bible college,
Mm-hmm.
or successful pastors that have never been to Bible college, or to learn these disciplines and techniques.
Yeah.
To get those things across. They're very good at what they do.
I can't speak for, Bible colleges and anywhere else in the world. I know what I'm trying to do here. I'm working on a kind of an informal curriculum for the preaching team at my church that I want to eventually use in other churches, and maybe in the thing that some other missionaries are trying to start, like a Bible school. Or I actually mentioned this to the Marquies with the CCBCE that's moving to Europe right now. Or not moving to Europe, moving to Georgia right now. And I want to, that simply teach the Bible simply, like obviously, but to me that doesn't mean just like you said, these mini sermons, but I want to get the main idea of a paragraph and simply teach that, so that people understand not just the trees, but the forest, not losing the forest for the trees. And I'm working on, this is an experiment for me in a way. I'm gonna start doing that, I think, this month or perhaps next month. I'm starting to, I've already got some homework assignments for people and stuff like that. So I guess that's something you could pray for.
Oh, sure.
So yeah.
I think when you're teaching through the scripture, hermeneutically, you've got to know the genre that you're dealing with. And you've got to know the context. One of the biggest thing is, what is the author trying to say? And you better do some word study, to really get the essence of what that word really means, and not transliterate it into 20th century English, and then jump to a application. But to know what he was really saying culturally, and to what audience it was being said to culturally, and how the audience understood that. Often we contextualize things from our own experience in our own culture, and we jump right from the text to today.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard people say, and Paul used these psychological techniques for relationship, and I'm going.
I've heard worse, Dennis. I've heard even worse, where Jesus said, the lilies of the field, they do not toil, neither do they spin, right? So this one preacher said, and they don't spin with pride, like this.
Yeah.
It's not even what that word means, like the spinning with pride. No, it's spinning to make clothes, but he didn't even understand.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, to me, that's the thing, to me, that's missing from the Bible college, in the Calvary Chapel Bible College system, is having people that understand the homiletics and the hermeneutics, to put things together, to be able to communicate effectively.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's one thing to go through the Word and the Romans and Matthew and, listen to Chuck and things like that. But to actually have training and practical use of writing some sermons and doing some Bible studies, like a speech class, where you have somebody that's really been there technically to help those people out. Because, again, I'm speaking from an academic point of view. I'm not trying to miss the heart of the person.
Yeah.
What do we have except what God has given us?
Amen.
But at the same time, I think we always are area in improving our skills to the glory of God.
Yeah, and I just for anybody that's watching, like, neither Dennis nor I discount the work of the Holy Spirit. Preaching is a gift of the Holy Spirit, but at the same time, I like what I think it's David Guzik, perhaps. He might have been quoting somebody else. I think he was actually quoting somebody else when he said this, but he said something like, the gift of preaching is given as a seed, and it needs to be watered and planted and cultivated and that kind of thing. So,
sure.
You take the disciples, they were in a Bible college with Jesus for several years, and they had
3
training.
years, man.
You take Paul the Apostle, and he was trained before he was saved. We're memorizing swaths of scripture, and he would have what would be the equivalent, I think, of a philosophical degree, today. So I think that we as a movement often discount more than we need to the academic side of ministry. So
that kind of goes back a little bit to Chuck.
Yeah, but Chuck was also, he seems educated.
Oh, he was. He went to Bible college.
Yeah.
He went to the Foursquare Bible College. But if you listen to Chuck's teachings carefully, from the early days before Mike and Raul got their master's degree and doctorate degrees, which totally surprised Chuck at the time. He personally said, don't waste your time in seminary. He discouraged it because the seminaries,
probably some bad experiences
seminary,
or something like that.
And you don't know the Word of God. You don't know what's going on, and pretty soon you're quoting boatmen, and you're a Bart Ehrman type, you're deflated.